Got the little spinny circles. So we are back with another Money Moves. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, Wendy. Exciting day today.
Yeah. Good
Episode 100. Yes,
crazy?
That's right. I know it is. That's almost 2 years of videos we're coming up with. We do one a week, and we're at episode 100, which is a big. I remember Seinfeld had a big party, so hopefully, maybe we should have a big party too. But anyway, it's good stuff. I love the content that we're putting out, and hopefully you, the listener, and the viewers do too. If you do, click that little subscribe button down below and show some love, right? And make sure you're sharing this stuff. We're trying to, educate Middle America on what's really going on with their money and things that they can do that the wealthy have been doing for literally decades. You can do it too on a smaller scale, so why not?
Yep.
And we've got some really kind of disappointing, scary, maybe, I don't know, news that we're going to be sharing today, talking about your financial privacy. So, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I know you and I have had a couple of conversations about this, but literally, folks, your financial privacy ends in just a couple short months, July 2023. And we're going to talk about that
it's to help you.
When we're trying to, that's right. We're the government and we're here to help, right? We're the government and we're here to help. But we're going to get started here in just a few seconds. Do us a favor if you got some friends that follow this stuff or maybe even wear a little tinfoil hat. This is one they want to get in on. But let's talk about it here in just a few seconds. Maybe. Okay.
Or we go.
I love when technology comes together and works perfectly and flawlessly. So, again, folks, this is a low budget effort here. We're just trying to spread the education. So, right. I watched, I just read Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights. Great book at Matthew McConaughey, if you're listening to this. And I've actually decided I'm going to take a walkabout because of that book later this year. But in it, he was talking about his first movie, Dazed and Confused. I'd never seen it before and actually watched it last weekend. And it was a pretty good movie. It was, kind of a coming of age.
Didn't see a movie that I've seen?
I know, right? I'm sure you watched because of Matthew. I just, it was like, okay, whatever. But it was actually a pretty good movie. And what blew me away is the number of stars that were in that movie. They were all unknowns at the time. And I was like, oh my God, I know that person. I know that person. Oh, he was in Private Ryan, Saving Private Ryan. It was crazy. It was a pretty good movie. But anyway, I digress. We're talking about something today that, with the Patriot Act that came out a few years ago, and I don't know if you know that or not, it has really nothing to, well, I guess it has a little to do with finance, but, a lot of people were just like, oh yeah, they're here to save us because of 9/11. And then we ended up giving up a bunch of our rights. Right. It's happening again, folks, with a little agency that's starting up. And it's not even a government agency, which we'll talk about that too, but it's an agency called FedNow. It's a system called FedNow coming out from the Federal Reserve that literally will end your privacy. Yep. So have you heard? You've heard of it. I know we've talked about it, but had you heard about it before I brought it up? Or,
well, I follow all the conspiracy theorists. So it's been about a year that I've heard people saying something will be coming, maybe even more than that. Yeah. But yeah, probably 2 months ago, I started hearing what it's called, the FedNow, and yeah. And now I think it's amazing to me how many people haven't heard of it, though.
Yeah. No, well, it's coming. No. And that's the propaganda machine, right? Mm-hmm. I found out this past week, too, in 2013, a law was signed into effect, was buried in a bill. But in 2013, where the government was allowed to use propaganda efforts within the United States. And if you look back, there was a big shift in how news was portrayed and things like that. And it started, before 2013, but it became like pretty rampant. after that. And, I'm sure everybody's seen those TikToks or the Instagrams with all of the news channels all over the United States saying the exact same script.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So we're being distracted by mainstream media with the, I'll just call it gender education or confusion in our elementary schools. That's a big hot topic, and one side knows that the other side's going to lose their mind when it's going on, and that's what's going on. So we're focused on that. The other thing is the whole Trump trial or Trump joke that came out of New York. That distraction lasted 5 minutes because it was literally the stupidest case ever. But you look at that and it's like, okay, well, everybody's focused on that, and this little thing called FedNow has been in pilot program and rolls out nationwide July of 2023. So it will be here before you know it. And most people don't know what it is. And we'll put some links down below in the comment section on where you can go to find it to learn more about it. But basically, if you've used Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, or any of these other payment programs, even your bank, ACH, it's now going to go through the FedNow program. FedNow will see every single financial transaction in the United States, going from party A to part A to
other than cash.
Party A, yeah. Other than what?
Other than cash.
And there's something coming December that'll fix that. So we'll talk about that on a later program. But that's the target rollout date for that. But going back to the FedNow program, I don't know about you. It's being sold, and I'm sure you've seen it. It's being sold as like, hey, we can do it better and faster now. So
everything, like when you go to their site, right? It's all like, oh, you don't have to wait for your funds anymore. There's no delay. There's no pending. There's no, ACH transfers that take 5 days to hit your account. Like everything's going to be instant. This is so good for you. So good for you.
And that's how it's being sold.
Yeah.
Just like, everybody had this flu thing a while back, and hey, we've got these, shots you can take and everybody's going to be healthy and immune. And that didn't really work out. But this whole thing is all about speed, and it's so easy. But what do you give up for that? I mean, what do you give up for that? Because the government, and I know you and I have talked about this, and I've talked to several others too. When Biden first came in, his administration, the first thing they wanted to do, and they talked about it, they talked about privatizing or governmentizing 401ks, which that'll happen down the road. But looking at Venmo, and they're trying to go after what's called the gray economy. Okay, the gray economy is when I do some side work for you, like I come over and paint your living room, you give me a couple $100 cash, pay me through Venmo or whatever the case may be. That's a transaction. Technically, that should be taxed, but it's called under the table money. That's what most people call it, but it's actually referred to as the gray economy because it's not really seen. Well, the government wants to go after that, and there's $37 billion annually that they estimate in taxes. But how do they control that? How do they control it without being obvious that they're trying to come after you? And they want to make sure everything gets reported, and voila, FedNow.
It's not a coincidence, right, that we had the now transactions over this amount have to be reported. Oh, hey, now forget all those other payment apps. Look, we can take care of this. Yeah.
So, and I think, I don't know, but I think that's ultimately where they're headed, is they want the FedNow program to be the only program.
Yeah.
Or, they insert themselves in the middle that even if you use Venmo or whatever the case may be, or Zelle or things like that, it's going to go through the FedNow program. The banks are the ones that have tested this. And I want to talk about that too. And you brought this up about, okay, it's the government's getting involved, but is it really the government?
Yeah. So that's one thing that I didn't realize until you and I started working together. I think you're the one that told me this originally. Yeah. But the Federal Reserve is not really a government agency.
No,
they're privately owned with investors, right? Am I correct?
It's basically it's a banking cartel. So I think it's the top 7 or 8 banks in the United States, are the ones that have kind of controlled the Fed. I mean, it's not, Jamie Dimon sitting in there, but I'm sure he's got some say and some swag in there. And it's not a coincidence that, the Fed controls our monetary system. The Fed, the Fed being the banking system in the United States, controls our monetary system. And, they're the ones that got the bailout in '08. Oddly enough, all these other banks, they're making all these investors whole and stuff like that. So there's obviously some tit for tat in there. You scratch my
These
back,
are
I'll
not
scratch
people
yours.
we're voting in, right?
But
Like they're
that's exactly
controlling
right.
the money, and we have no say
Yep.
in any of it.
Well, and that's where, Senator Ron Paul, out of Texas, he wanted to audit the Fed. That was his big thing. He ran on a platform for president back in, was it 96, maybe 2000, somewhere in there. Anyway, I voted for him during the primary because I loved his book, loved what he was doing, but he wanted to audit the Fed because the Fed has never been audited. And they control our money system. And it's one of those things that's scary to hand over that much power to a third party, basically, because our politicians are too inept to manage that system themselves. So we hand it over to the banks, which it's like, okay, let's let the fox into the hen house and, they'll take care of it. But now they're going even further with this FedNow program.
Right.
And, so you look at it, and if you could pull that up, Wendy, we've got an image kind of show you a little bit of what that system's going to look like. And basically they've inserted themselves in the middle. So, you as a sender, you're going to send money to another bank, or you're going to pay your credit card bills, or, you're going to pay your utility bills, or whatever the case may be, right? You're going to send cash from your bank, which is what most people do now, or through a third party app, like I said, Zelle, Venmo, things like that. And you're going to go send it to them. They're going to have to go through the FedNow service. Again, the Federal Reserve Bank, right? They're going to look at it and tag it, monitor it, audit it, maybe tax it one day. And then it's going to go to the sender or the receiver's institution, the bank, so if it's your electric company, it goes to their banking account and stuff like that. And that's how that program works. And it's really scary to think that everything we do now financially is going to be monitored.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing that's not are those, basically, like you said, those cash transactions.
Yeah.
So they've managed to do this, and and look how long Biden's been in office. He's been in office now for a couple of years. They've managed to get this from 0 to 60 in that that short amount of time. It's only a matter of time. Like I said, December 2023 is what I'm hearing about rolling out the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. They needed a trigger event for this. And I'm going to get, again, get out your tinfoil hats. I'm going to, because this is where it gets a little conspiracy theorist, but a lot of conspiracies are, that's true. The CBDC needed a trigger event, a dollar collapse.
Yeah.
What are we facing right now with the BRICS banks and all of that stuff?
Yep. Everyone's getting rid of using the US dollar. They're like,
yep,
no more. Right.
Exactly. And so, that's one of those things that, okay, what happens? And I had a client of mine ask me a question today. It's like, okay, well, how do we protect ourselves? Yeah. And there's some things you can do, right? And we'll cover those real quick. But you look at number one, come up with some multiple streams of income. We've done videos on this. I've said it. Wendy said it. I don't know how many times we can say it. Find a side hustle. Find something to make some extra money. And don't become dependent on your income from a job. So if you can start a business through an affiliate program, or even a business on your own, or I know you come from the network marketing world, Wendy, there's a lot of great programs out there. Find something to make some cash. If you need some pointers on that, or invite, reach out to us, johncleaver.com, or, at Wendy Lee Online. We'll kind of point you in the right direction. Number two is, do what you can to stack as much cash as you can. Take that extra money. Don't buy crap. Don't go spend it. Don't go blow it, right? That's what we do. Don't do it. Go out and start stacking it. Started growth accounts, things like that. So that's kind of the second thing. And then the third thing, work on paying your debts down. So that extra money, save some of it, pay some bills down with it too. Okay. So if you're making $500 extra a month, $250 towards stacking, $250 towards getting out of debt. Because the less debt that you have, the less hooks they have in you. Okay, the less dependent you are on that income to make sure your bills are paid and your credit scores are good and things like that. So again, get out of that. And I know this seems like common sense, but there's kind of a bigger sense of urgency now. And then lastly, I think everybody should have, cash on hand. And what do I mean by that? Have $500, $1,000, $2,000 cash in some kind of fireproof safe in your home. Okay, because a lot of countries out there have transitioned to, bank runs, things like that, or have also transitioned to we're going to shut the banks down for a period.
Right.
And you saw that happen when the Fed came in and took over these banks recently. When they closed those banks and transitioned the assets somewhere else. So if all of a sudden you could only pull out $50 out of the ATM, or your card was approved for $50 a day, because FedNow will have the ability to do that. I'm not saying they will, but they will have the ability to do that. Okay.
And do you trust the government?
Yeah. Again, I don't. So love my country. I don't trust my government.
The $50 a day. I was talking to someone about that the other day, and they said that the husband and wife have 2 separate checking accounts for that reason. Mm-hmm. So they can each, if there's ever a limit on that. I was like, oh, I never even thought about that. So,
well, that's one way to do it, but still, if they limit it to $50, that's $100. I mean,
right.
And don't get me wrong, that's okay, I guess. But what if you need to fill up your tank? If you've got a truck, that's the $100 right there. It's gone. Okay, which that's going to do what? If you can only buy $20 of fuel a day, that's going to limit what? Where you can work, where you can travel, everything else. So there's a lot of dominoes to this. And again, it's it sounds a little like conspiracy, but the whole point of this is to protect and keep yourself independent as possible. So having $1,000 or $2,000 cash on hand, or $500, $200, whatever you can do, right? Just in case that happens, now you've got an ability to fall back on. Okay, I do need some extra cash. I've got it. And then, the other piece too is have an emergency fund set up, in your bank and things like that, in case, because this is going to impact. We've got job turmoil going on right now. And that's just kind of a basic 101. But those are the things you can do. And then lastly, don't forget about your precious metals, right? Stack some silver, some platinum, some gold, and you don't have to buy big amounts. I'm working an hourly job. You can get a silver 1 ounce coin for $30.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's not that hard to do. Buy one a month. At the end of the year, you got 12 ounces of silver, right? That's better than nothing. And there's a lot of places you can do that. You can do it at pawn shops. You can get what's called junk silver. Don't buy the collector's coins, right? But buy the junk silver. And I'll put a link down from a place that I buy from in the video below. But, again, and we'll actually, as a matter of fact, I think we should do an episode on that. Maybe we'll do that next week, talking about what do you look for and things like that. But, these are the ways you can kind of keep yourself outside of the system, or at least have the ability to step outside of the FedNow system, okay, to some degree. Now, once they go to a digital currency, and folks, it's happening. There's no getting around it. It's already in motion. It's already on the plan. It's already on the radar. They're putting all the things in place. And like I said, most of us are sitting there quietly complaining about it to each other, but we're not reaching out to our senators. We're not reaching out to our representatives. And at this point, I don't even know that they would listen to us because it's not an election time. So, again, make your voice be heard. Wake up, share this with friends and things like that. But I don't know. I've been talking a lot here, Wendy, but I don't know if you've got anything else to add on the FedNow.
No, just, it's one of those things. We need to be aware. We need to know, how much can we do about it? I don't know. We need to show up on election day and apparently all carry the signs of who we vote for. So it's like obvious who wins, maybe. Anyway, but it's, I would just say for me, like, it's a little scary how quickly our country has turned.
Yeah.
And that our freedoms are being robbed. And I'm just praying that it turns around. So
yeah, exactly. Well, and there's kind of in closing, FedNow, it's happening in July. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, sound off if you're, watching this or you're watching a replay of this. Please put your comments below on how you feel about this. In that you're awake and like, hey, this is kind of scary stuff. Or if you think it's no big deal, put that in there too. But if you want to learn more about the Federal Reserve or not the Federal Reserve, but the FedNow, go to frbservices.org, frbservices.org. I'll put that link in there, and it talks about the Fed Reserve and what they're doing with the FedNow and everything else. So it's all out there, again, hidden in plain sight, right? But we're just not watching it because we're too worried about what's going on, with the Bud Light and Dylan. So again, not that that's not an issue to some people, and I get it, but this is a much bigger issue that they're slipping under the covers. So,
Yep.
Everybody have a great week. Wendy, as always, it was good to hear you and see you. And I'll see you next week. And yeah, let's do something on gold and silver. And everybody, have a great day. And we'll see you here on Money Moves. Again, click that like button, show some love, and share with your